evening with Action First broadcast, once again with my man, Dr. Wayne McCray, and myself, Jerry Green from the radio station. I get a little feedback. Everything is sound good on your end?
Yeah,
Sound
it
good?
sounds good coming across. It's coming
Okay,
across
cool.
good.
All right. I want to welcome everybody on the radio, W.J.R.G radio, every Thursday at 6 p.m. We have the Action First broadcast, and we have a special guest that comes in to keep us all informed of what's going on in our community. So we're excited this evening to have Sister Jackie Downing. She's our special guest this evening. She's the director of grant making and nonprofit support for the Community Foundation for the Greater New Haven. And also we have Dr. Wayne McCray. Yes, from Action
All
First
right, Jim.
Broadcast. Let me just welcome you. How y'all doing this evening?
Good.
How you doing, Jim?
How y'all doing?
Good.
Everything is good?
Yep.
All right. And Jackie, so how was you guys' holiday, first of all? The weekend. How was your weekend last weekend, the holiday?
Oh, busy weekend. Busy weekend in the rain and the cold. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But I'll tell you, God is still good, and we're here. Well, first of all, I do want to say, Jackie, it's a pleasure to have you on Action First broadcast and W.J.R.G radio. I see you have a great bio, a nice, you've been doing a lot of things, a lot of great things for our community. So we're going to get into that as well. Well, first of all, let's talk about how long you've been at your position as director of grant making for the Greater New Haven area in Hamden.
Well, I've been at the Community Foundation for 10 years now.
Okay.
And our Community Foundation, you talked about area, we serve not only New Haven, but we serve from Milford to Madison and Wallingford to Cheshire and the lower Naugatuck Valley.
Wow. That's a blessing. So I guess
20 towns.
20 towns. So I guess a lot of businesses and a lot of people is really blessed from your organization. Now, which are some of the organizations or businesses in the area that your foundation helped, to help them overcome?
Well, we are open and available to every nonprofit in that 20-town region. Okay. So there are some grant makers that say, we do children's causes or elderly or health. We're not that kind of grant maker. We're what's called a responsive grant maker, meaning we respond to the people in our community who are doing good work.
Right.
So if you're a nonprofit organization and you're doing good work in the 20 towns, we want to be your partner.
Wow.
That's not only in funding. We do have lots of grant programs, lots of opportunities for folks to be able to get funding from us. But we also do a lot of workshops and presentations that help organizations be stronger. That's how I got to meet Dr. McCray.
All right. That's a blessing. So, but like you said, but you got to be nonprofit, though, right? You got to be a nonprofit organization, right? Basically.
Well, we do have one exception to that, and that's our neighborhood leadership program. So if you're a person in New Haven, Hamden, West Haven, I think that's it, New Haven, Hamden, West Haven, with a really good idea, and you're not a nonprofit organization, but you want to learn how to do that community organizing and learn how to make it together and put together a budget and learn how to do the programming and to pull it together, we have a neighborhood leadership program. We do one group a year that we put through some training to help with all of those skills and a little seed funding for you to get that idea launched with a partner in the community.
All right, we're speaking live with Sister Jackie Downing, and she has a lot of information, especially those who are planning on going into a nonprofit organization or have a nonprofit organization. She has a lot of information that can really help your organization. Now, Jackie, we know that 2020 was probably, in my lifetime, probably the worst year I've seen, when it comes to the economy, people health, people dying from this pandemic, and a lot of small businesses, and even a lot of large businesses really, felt the impact. How bad was this virus, hurting these small businesses and even your organization? What kind of impact did the virus have on some of these organizations?
Well, I'm going to go in a couple directions because everything that we talk about at the foundation are basically the nonprofits. So I can't really speak to the for-profit companies that are out there, although we all know what devastation there was. But nonprofits are small businesses. In some cases, nonprofits are big businesses. They employ people, they serve people, and the effects of the pandemic, of the dual pandemic, of what's happened in the last year, have been enormous on all of our nonprofits. So what we've seen is that some organizations just had to close their doors temporarily, but some had to step up and continue straight through the pandemic. People were hungry. The food pantries, the soup kitchens, they couldn't just shut down. So they stepped in during the crisis and stepped up what they do. The health organizations, the clinics, the daycares for the people who still had to go to work, that had to be childcare that was still provided. So there are a lot of organizations still doing business, not quite as usual, but still trying to do that while dealing with their own families being home, while dealing with illness and loss around them. So the trauma that people have seen within these nonprofits is enormous, and the effects on the nonprofits, people couldn't afford to pay for services in some cases. But they still had to do the services. They felt the obligation to serve their constituents. So it was even more difficult for them. And then all the events that nonprofits always do, you know, the fairs and the galas and the dinners and the fundraisers, all canceled.
Right.
Because there was no gathering. So the way that nonprofits bring in their money to serve people who can't afford to pay disappeared.
Right.
So some of them were on the brink of closing. Fortunately, the PPP money was coming through the federal government and some of the state support was there. The foundation, we kind of stepped up and accelerated our grant making, and we put in the first 2 months, we put $20 million into the community. Wow. Just to help people get through. Wow. That was money that was supposed to have gone out, you know, through the year.
Right.
But we also had donors step up, and donors who would not normally have given money at that moment stepped up and said, how can we help? So we, with the United Way, created a COVID relief fund and helped nonprofits. So we're not going to give to individuals, but we could give to those organizations that were doing good work out of churches, out of community centers, being able to help them reach the different communities they reach through the COVID relief fund that our donors were able to help us to provide.
Amen. That's a blessing. Now let's talk about this vaccination, because even with my job, they put out a memo today, maybe starting either next week or the following week. And those who have the 2 shots, if they choose not to wear a mask, they don't have to wear a mask anymore. You know, I mean, I don't know how some people are going to feel about that, but, you know, they really believe in this vaccination. And how do you feel about that, especially, you know, as the state is reopening a lot of things, a lot of businesses, organizations? How you feel about it? Do you feel this vaccination is really going in the right direction? And should more people get vaccinated so we can try to get back to some type of normalcy? And hopefully people can take the mask off one day. How do you feel about the vaccination?
Okay, so here's personal feeling. This is not me speaking for the foundation, but this is me speaking personally.
You got the mic.
Yeah, so I want to start with that. I got the vaccine. I got in line right behind Dr. Fauci, because if he was going to get it, for me, that was good enough. So I got it as quickly as I could. I took my 94-year-old mom to get it as quickly as we could, because I wanted her to have her life back. Bingo was my mother's life. My mother has been isolated in her apartment because she didn't have the vaccine, because she couldn't go out, and because everything shut down. I want life back. I think that we followed the science and we've come a long way. Look where we are. We can go to the store without our mask on now. Right. If you've had that double vaccine, they say the science says if you've had the double vaccine, you may still get COVID, but you will either be asymptomatic or get such a low degree of symptoms that you're hardly going to notice. You're not going to be hospitalized. You're not going to die. That's what's happening. And also, if you get it, you have such a low level of it in you if you've been vaccinated that you can't transmit it to other people very well.
Okay.
Now, that's not universal. There are exceptions. So in my mind, I think people also have to be comfortable, and you have to understand that people have different tolerances. So some people are ready to go, some people were ready to go back months ago. Some people are still isolated in their homes wearing their double masks when they go out. And we have to be sensitive to that. People are in different places. People have different levels of tolerance, and people have gone through so much loss.
That's right.
If you've lost people around you, you're not going to be as fast to go out and party without your mask
Right.
as those people who, didn't experience any loss.
Right.
So my message is, please get the vaccine. It's, a couple 100 million people have gotten the vaccine. The side effects are temporary. The solution is permanent, or at least a year's worth. I mean, we get our flu vaccine every year and we get a booster. If we have to get a COVID booster next year, ain't no thing, because it's done. We've got the first one, and that's going to protect us now. So I would say go ahead, get the vaccine, trust the science, because we want people like my 94-year-old mom and our elders and our children to be able to get back to life. And,
There you go.
it's on us to help them do that. Those of us who are healthy, who can get it. There are people with medical conditions that can't. So let's protect them.
Right. Well, that's why I asked the question, because, especially when you work with nonprofit, and a lot of people want to get back into, doing things they were doing, like the parades and like we have a gospel fest every year that was postponed as well last year because of the virus, and people want to get back and start, doing certain things, having fun again. So that's why I asked you that question. How do you feel about the vaccination? Because some people still, have their doubts, which is fine. But the country is trying to get back to some type of normalcy. Now let's talk about some of your workshops that you're involved with. Let's talk about some of your workshops. Then we'll get into the Dixie Q House. And what's some of the workshops that you help organize?
Okay, so through the foundation, we do lots of workshops to help nonprofits be stronger.
Okay.
So, we can give you money, but that's not going to fix everything. You have to be a good, strong organization that knows how to spend money wisely and how to raise your own money. Right. We're not the only source of money in the community. There's lots of money out there. How else do you get that money? So we've done lots of workshops that will help board members and staff members at nonprofits to be stronger, to do a better job at what they're doing so that they can fulfill their missions. We work with the Urban Nonprofit Network in New Haven. That's Doreen Abubakar and Jeanette Sykes. And they put together. Yeah, so maybe you want to talk about that a little bit, Dr. Wayne, about your experience with that series of workshops.
Yes, it was very interesting. The training, it was really awesome. We learned a lot about budgeting, financial spending, planning the events, and even structure for our fiscal year. Also, how to handle the cash flows, and there was a lot that were helpful with other information for nonprofits, to helping the nonprofits become a stronger nonprofit organization. And there was other websites that were able to reach out to for more information, in structuring. The one thing I like, the breakout sessions. The breakout session was really awesome, role playing and, with my team, with my board. Now I'm trying to put together a retreat for them, for them, taking the time, to go through these training, because it was so valuable and so helpful to us moving forward. And there's some other grants that we're pursuing now, that the work that we've been doing, because it helped us to narrow down and to target the funding areas where we're more apt to, provide the services for. Because right now, all of the churches, our mission statements have changed, so that whole process with changing our mission statements and being able to work on different elevator speeches to be able to pursue the right direction and the services that we need to provide at this time. So it was really helpful to our organization.
Oh, you did a great job. Thanks. So you got a lot out of it. That was good.
Oh yeah.
So we do a series to help organizations be stronger, so that they can attract funding from other places, so that they can make better decisions for the people they serve, so that they can continue to do those things going forward with whatever resources they can get from the community. It's all about, ultimately, it's about serving people. And how do you do that better? You do it as a stronger organization. We're also, people who have passion, have an idea, they start an organization, they need to surround themselves with people who care. So
right.
if your listeners want to join boards on our website, and I know we have that available on the website. If you go to the CFGNH Community Foundation Greater New Haven website, you can search there for joining a board. There are lots of organizations looking for board members. We also do training for board members. You know, how do you get prepared to be a board member? What are the things you need to know? What can you expect from an organization you join? And what does an organization expect from you? So if you want that kind of training, we can certainly do that. What we're scrolling through now is givegreater.org. Givegreater.org is a database of about 450 all local nonprofits doing all kinds of work. So if your passion is a cancer cause, and I'm looking as they go by, or working with the blind, or the American Red Cross, or the New Haven Symphony, or you love music,
Okay.
neighborhood music school. They're all there, and they're all looking for board members, and they're all looking for support. And you can learn lots of stuff about all of these organizations, and you can also understand what they're looking for in board members if you want to, or volunteers. If you don't want to join a board, you just want to volunteer for one thing. Some great organizations, and they're all looking for help. So if you want to know how you can make a difference in the community, take a look there, find something that's your passion. What inspires you? And I can help make those connections for you. You can just reach out directly, because everyone loves to find a new volunteer.
That is the blessing to our community. I was speaking live with our sister Jackie Downing. She's the director of grant making and nonprofit support for the Community Foundation for the Greater New Haven area, and she resides in Hamden. And this is a W.J.R.G. gospel internet radio station, and also Action First broadcast. We come every Thursday at 6 p.m. with Dr. Wayne McCray, and we try to bring a special guest on so we can give information that try to help and better our community. Let's talk about your involvement with the Dixwell Q House. I know for years they're still trying to get it going, and I remember when I was a kid, you know, it was a lot of activity going on at the Q House. What's your involvement with the Q House in New Haven?
Well, right now I'm on the advisory board.
Okay.
And chairing the strategic planning committee. So we will be reaching out into the community. So hopefully your listeners soon will start hearing from us to ask for what is it that you envision for the Q? What do you want to see at the Q House? What do you remember that's important about the Q? And how do we make sure that today's youth has that same experience? That's what I'm doing now for the Q House. I was on the staff of the Q House for 7 years. I started as the development director and then was program and development director. So I spent I started volunteering 5 years before that. So I spent a lot of time at the Q. My son was literally almost born at the Q. We talk about him as a Q House kid, but he was literally almost born at the Q. So I've got a long history with the Q House and was devastated when it shut down in 2003. And I am so excited that it will be opening up again. We'll have a soft open this summer. We'll start with some programming for youth in the fall. LEAP is the company that's coming in to help run our youth program and to help direct all of the programming that will happen. It won't just be a LEAP site. It's going to be more than that. But that's what this strategic planning process is about, to find out what it is that we're going to be when we grow up. So LEAP will start in Dixwell, Newhallville in the fall. And then we'll be adding programs as we go along. We'll be adding lots more programming for youth. The Dixwell Senior Center is going to be there. So there are going to be senior programs. We're going to do some intergenerational stuff where the little kids can visit the grandmas and grandpas. The Hill Health Center is also going to be in the same building. Cornell Scott Hill Health is in the same building. And the Stetson Library, a new state-of-the-art 21st century Stetson Library, is also going to be in the same building with its own programming space, with its maker space, with lots of fun stuff. So it's going to be just amazing.
And that's where Sister Diane Brown works at, right?
Yes.
She's over there doing a great job as well. Now, we have a phone number, so I'm going to give out the number if anybody have any questions. The number is 475-227-2170. That's the number to the studio. If you have any questions for Sister Jackie, give us a call, or Brother Wayne or myself. Once again, the number is 475-227-2170. I can put you on speakerphone, and they should be able to hear any questions that you might have for her. She's given us some great nuggets.
Give the number again, Jerry.
It's 475-227-2170. 475-227-2170. If anybody have any question you want to ask Sister Jackie, if you're a nonprofit organization and you want to have any questions. Now, also, I understand you're on the advisory board for the Sisters Journey. Tell us about that experience.
Well, actually, when I joined the foundation, I had to step down from that role.
Okay.
Linda White Epps and her mom, Phyllis White, were dear friends. And I was with them almost from the very beginning of Sisters Journey. So this is an organization that helps with breast cancer prevention and awareness and support. So if you have for women of color, so if you have a family member who's dealing with breast cancer or is a survivor and needs that support, Sisters Journey is an amazing organization that will offer that in that sisterhood of being able to come together and share struggles that the rest of us just don't understand.
Wow. Okay.
All
right. Sisters Journey. So I got to keep that in mind. All right. Also, I understand. I mean, really, because you have a long bio. I mean, so
I'm old.
You accomplished so much, and you've been helping people for so long. I understand you volunteer at the Hampden Whitney Players and the New Haven Ballet. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I have this little bit of a theater background. So,
Okay.
my kids grew up and both of them were performers, not anymore, but they were performers going through school. So I supported them in all of their stuff. The Whitney Players is a truly community theater group where they recruit from the community and support the community. And there's a place for everyone there. It's welcome and opening and welcome. They do a wonderful job. They do a major musical in the summertime. Hopefully, we'll be doing one again this summer, none last summer. And that's age appropriate, which means adults get leads that are for adults and children get leads for children. And then in the winter, they do workshops. They've been doing them on Zoom, and they do showcases for youth, so we can train our younger performers.
Okay.
To be the leads and other things. And then in the winter, there's usually a 18 and under production where the kids get the leads.
Okay.
So they get those responsibilities. And we've seen like our older teens become the mentors for the littler kids, which is really kind of cool to see how they've grown up and understanding that theater is a team sport. Athletics is not for everybody. Not everybody wants to play any kind of sport.
Yeah, right.
Would rather have that artistic outlet.
Right.
And this is an opportunity for those kids. So although my kids are gone and aged out of this a long time ago, both are in New York, I'm still there volunteering all these years later, and it's been 16 years now because the company does just such good work with and for kids. So we're excited about that.
Now, you brought up a good point. Everybody is not going to be an athlete, get into athletics. Let's talk about, because it's 2021, let's talk about education for a minute, because especially people of color, and not just us, everybody needs education. How important is it for technology today and trying to get a good job? How important is education, especially to the young kids? Because sometimes when you're young, because I was young, and when you're young, you're out there, you're trying to, you're being pulled in different directions. And one thing is important is education. I want you to say, how important is it, I'm talking to a young person today, and with today's technology, how important is education going forward?
Education is critical to anybody's success. And that's lifelong learning. It's not just K through 12. It's not, I got to get a college degree. It's lifelong learning. Because again, a college degree may not be for everybody.
Right.
If you want to be a mechanic, you want to do something with your hands, college may not be for you, but you still have to learn.
Got skills.
You have to go through that apprenticeship program. You have to be that electrician's apprentice or whoever's apprentice, and work with your hands and be the best you can be at what you want to be. You don't have to be a college graduate to do all of that, but you have to have the lifelong learning sort of built into you to be
Right.
able to understand that. My dad was a carpenter. My dad graduated from high school, and Pearl Harbor happened, and he joined the Navy and never went back to
Never
home.
went back. Right.
He settled here in Connecticut instead. And he was a carpenter.
Okay.
And I remember growing up, when my father would read the paper, he'd go to the big Webster's dictionary, you know, that one that was about this thick.
Yeah, the big one. Yeah.
And he was constantly, maybe once a week I'd see him look up a word. He'd say, well, I just read that article. I don't know what that meant. So my father was still looking that up. Now, he was the best carpenter you could possibly be. He was a fine cabinet maker. He was good at what he did, and he would teach younger people how to do it. He taught me to be a good carpenter. I mean, I'm a pretty good carpenter. My brother, not so much. My older brother was really good. But he understood the importance of teaching and the importance of still learning. And I think if young people always embrace that, if math's not your thing, then you do what you need to do so you have that basic understanding. And then you go ahead and do what you care about. What's your passion? What inspires you? If it's writing, then go in that direction. If it's working with your hands, then go in that direction. But be the best you can be and know everything you need to know in order to make it work for you.
Just like they say, if you're gonna make a hamburger, make the best hamburger. I agree. Whatever you decide to do, and that's definitely some great advice. Especially, hope someone that's listening or watching us on Facebook Live as we stream on StreamYard this evening. Hope somebody gets something out of that. We're speaking live with Sister Jackie Downing. She's the Director of Grant Making and Nonprofit Support for the Community Foundation for the Greater New Haven. Yes, and she's a blessing. We just excited to have her on the show along with Dr. Wayne McCray. We just got a few more questions. I'm not gonna keep you here all night because you really have a lot of information for us. And once again, the phone line is open. If anybody have any questions for Sister Jackie, the number is 475-227-2170, and I'll put you over the air, and you can they can hear you on Facebook as well. Also, I understand that you spent 4 years as Deputy Chief Administrator Office for the town of Hamden in the Amento administration. Let's talk about that real fast.
That's right. Yep. I've lived in Hamden every day of my life, and was asked to serve the town in that capacity. And I just loved what I did. And again, it was that service role of being able to help the citizens of Hamden through some issues. And there were some difficult things to get through. You can't please everybody.
That's right.
But what you have to do is you have to take a look and learn everything you can from everyone. Listen to everyone. Really important. Listen to everybody so everybody feels heard, and understand their point of view, and then help make the decisions that represent the majority of people.
Praise God.
So somebody's always going to feel left out, and that's unfortunate. But at least if they can feel as though they were heard, we try to make it right that way. So that was a good 4 years to be able to serve the town.
Okay, I got just a couple more questions, and probably Dr. Wayne might have a couple of questions. I don't want to keep you all night, but also, what advice would you give a small business? Because I know you deal with businesses, especially nonprofit. But what advice would you give someone who, like I said, is coming through this pandemic? A little struggling, maybe a little discouraged, with their business. But what advice would you give them, going forward?
Things are going to open up again. If you had a good and thriving business before the pandemic, your people are going to come back. That's right. What I find in New Haven is that New Haven people are loyal. New Haven people are kind. So if they were strong supporters before, they're going to come back to you. But you got to keep in touch with them. So communicate. That's the most important thing. People shouldn't show up at your door and suddenly find out you're closed. Find a way to communicate with your regular people. Put good signage up so people understand if you've got reduced hours, when are you going to be there? Right. Make sure they understand when you're going to be open, what protocols, and what your expectations are of them. Do you want them to wear a mask or not? And understand that, there are people that are going to be sensitive to not wearing it and people are sensitive to wearing it. So, we have to not criticize people for wherever they are,
Right.
but again, follow the science. In your business, if you have the time to be patient, it's really tough. There's money out there through the city, through the state. There's federal money coming down. There have been lots of opportunities to help these businesses, small businesses, get through. Look for every opportunity you possibly can. There are resources within the community, places like the Women's Business Development Center it's actually in Bridgeport, but they will help small businesses understand all of this. The state Small Business Administration, they'll help you navigate through all this stuff, but take advantage of the opportunities that are there. This is money that's there to keep businesses thriving. And we don't want to leave any of it on the table. We want it all out in the community, getting us through. And then make sure you're staying in touch with your people, and let's hope we get them back soon.
There you go. Great advice. Dr. Wayne, you have any questions for Sister Jackie?
Yes. Just one question. Through this pandemic, and we know that a lot of the money comes in through philanthropists. How has that impacted, the foundation and I heard you say that they gave over $20 million, to the community, and that's kudos to Community Foundation for, standing in the gap too, because economically, it's been a struggle. And we know that even our government is struggling. And so, it's a lot because they have to compensate for the money that they allocate and that they put out in the communities. How has it been with the philanthropists and their giving in this time?
I have to say that people, and now I'm going to give a broad definition. You're thinking philanthropists, those guys with the really big pockets and the really deep pockets and the big wallets, right?
Right.
I'm going to blow that up, because I think a philanthropist is that guy who gave $5 when giving $5 was a struggle for him, but he knew that somebody else was hungrier.
Wow.
That's a philanthropist. Okay.
Oh, wow.
My mother had these little zingers that she would shut us down, like you'd complain about. I met a man who had I felt bad because I had no shoes. Then I met a man who had no feet.
Wow.
Wow.
So let's think about philanthropists as, one of the screens you brought up was the Great Give. Mm-hmm. That was last year, $3.6 million, this year, $3.3 million into the community in 36 hours. That wasn't Mr. Big Bucks. That was that $25 donor and the $50 donor stepping up and saying, this is my time to give back.
Wow.
I don't have a lot to give, but collectively, when 20,000 people come together and put what they can into the community, it's enormous.
It's enormous.
And, we've done the Great Give. This was our 12th year. In 2019, we raised about 1.8 million. And we were 6 weeks into the pandemic last year when we ran the Great Give. We had no idea what we were going to expect. We thought, 20% of the population is unemployed. People have no idea we had no idea what to expect. And we started, and we were just flabbergasted. There's a word, flabbergasted at what happened. We doubled what we did the year before. We raised $3.6 million last year in 36 hours because the folks with the big deep pockets, they stepped up and said, I can do more now. And the people with the smaller pockets said, I can do more now. We had a lot of people who got the stimulus check that said, I didn't need it. I gave it all to charity. Wow. I want those vaccines. I want those clinics to be able to treat people. I want those soup kitchens to be able to feed people. I want those after-school programs to be able to get the technology they need to be able to deal with the kids who are home and isolated that still need youth programming.
There you go.
So people really stepped up and gave very generously. And I think we're still seeing that continue. It's harder. now because we don't have the events that we had. You know, you can't run the dinner and you can't run the fair festival to raise that money. So it's a little harder to sort of shake the tree and get the money out of people. But once you make the ask, people have been enormously generous. But I want you to think differently about what you think a philanthropist is. A philanthropist, the guy who runs Popeyes on Whaley Avenue, who supports the bereavement care network and helps families when they've lost a young person to violence, who steps up and takes care of the hospitality and feeds the family, he's a philanthropist.
There you go.
He's not putting $25,000. I like that. You know what? He's a philanthropist. Everybody listening right now who drops that money in the basket at church, they're philanthropists.
That's right. That's right.
So you just have to figure out where you are and what you want to support in the world. I'm going to go back to that same question. What inspires you?
That's right.
What inspires you? And give to that. If you can't be out there doing that God's work every day, give it to the people who can.
Well, and plus it's
limited resources.
Plus it's a spiritual law. It's scripture. You give and it shall be given to you. I mean, pressed down, shaken together, running over. You know, that men shall give back to you, because that's the law that God put in place, because it's better to give than receive. So I hear you. Because there be sometimes I'll be driving down the boulevard, right, and I come to the stop, you know, and here's a guy out there with his sign, you know, wants some money. I'm not saying I do it every time, but every now and then, most of the time, all right, is in my heart to give this guy either 50 cents, $1, or something, because here I am riding around in a Mercedes, all right, going home, you know, I got a nice home, you know, food on my table, and I got a guy here begging for money. 50 cents or $1 is not going to hurt me. So I got to look at the big picture, you know. I mean, so sometimes, to your point, you know, we have to, you know, look at those who might be really in need, who really need it. You know, sometimes God blesses us, and we be so tight with our money, with our hand, you know, we don't want to give, and that's how God blesses us. You know, He blesses us.
You can't get nothing in a closed fist. It got to be open. Hands have to be open.
Right.
And never close, because it goes in the hand, and then we bless somebody else, and then another blessing comes. But you know, one other thing I want to share that what I heard you said about with the artists, and I like that approach. Also volunteering, because I volunteered for years, and from volunteering, it opened up doors for me and gave me other opportunities. And you know, so it's one thing. And so, you know, one thing I believe now, that for all my years of serving and giving, you know, things for our ministry that we're trying to do, because we still are developing, you know, things that we want to do programmatically for the community. So in our giving and our efforts, you know, the Bible said, like you said, you reap what you sow. So, you know, I believe it's harvest time for our ministry, and that we can give more and be more of a blessing in other areas and things that we're trying to do. But as you was talking about the artists, I ran into an artist today, and we was having a discussion, because I'm putting together an event for August 21st on the New Haven Green, where we're going to do a peace rally to formulate a peace sign with people. And we're going to honor some of our leaders that have led by them displaying their shoes in a display case, because that's their journey and how they walk. And so we want that for the kids to be able to understand that tour the city hall, that they'd be able to see those shoes and it's a dialogue to enlighten the kids on their journeys. And so I was talking with this artist today, and I said, you know, this is so powerful, because what she was saying about footprints and artistry, that just through that conversation, it piqued the interest where she wants to, with the kids, that they do an event where that they place their footprint, just like Jesus placed his footprint in the sand. You know, it's a signature. And also I know that as kids, when you were first born, that's how that was your print. They put the on the birth certificate the baby's footprint. So you know, I like that, and there's things that, and I'm sharing that because that there's things artistry because the kids been cooped up in the house. Even we was out in the community and I was praying, and as I was praying, I was saying, well, to see the kids out jump roping again. Because we don't see none of those things. The kids playing hopscotch or the men shooting horseshoes. You know, the simpler things that get us outside.
That's right.
And so those are basic things that are really needed, and that is part of our foundation. So we need to get back to some of the basic things in our foundation. So when you was talking about with the artists and that conversation that I had with an art teacher that's retired, but she does things, still does things, and she's real proactive in the community. So this is something that I said, wow, that's powerful. So that's another level. So as we honor these leaders, and there's other things that artists can do and going forward and to exemplify the prints that we need to make now, our journeys.
There you go.
Yep.
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Do you have a comment? I don't know. You want her to comment on that?
Yeah,
Or?
you want to comment?
No, that sounds like I'm excited about the project. And you know, we're doing with the Arts Council, we're doing a racial equity and creative healing grant application.
Okay.
Okay.
Go to the Arts Council website, take a look for that, or I'll send you something on it, because that might be a possibility for you to get some funding for that in there. But yeah, but that's, you know, the footprints, capturing somebody through the footprint.
Yes.
Is very powerful.
Yes.
Because a lot of people they look at people's success, or they think, you know, they look at the success of what somebody accomplished, but they don't know their journey. All right, because everybody have a journey that we don't know about until you walk in their shoes, and everybody can't walk in another person's shoes. You know, they might want the same success, but they don't want to pay the price. And there's a price behind everything we do is a price that you have to pay that people don't see. All right, they don't see it at all. Well, Sister Jackie, I want to thank you for being on Action First broadcast and W.J.R.G radio. Can you give out your contact information? Anybody that's maybe listening or streaming it live on Facebook, or maybe they might even view this. I'm going to share this a few other times. They might watch it later on. What is your contact information and your website again?
Sure. So the website for the foundation, it's the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. The website, cfgnh.org. So lots of information on there. And my email is first initial J Downing @cfgnh.org.
All right.
And anyone is welcome to reach out for anything. I'd love to talk to nonprofit leaders. I'd love to talk to volunteers who want to look for nonprofit service. I'd love to talk to donors who want to make connections to support organizations. I'm happy to talk to all.
I'll tell you, well, you've been a blessing this evening on this radio station and also with Action First broadcast. I want to personally thank you, you know, for all the information you shared this evening. Hope somebody out there, you know, wrote down this information and they can be blessed by some of the things that your organization offers. So we're really excited to have you on the show this evening with Action First. Dr. Wayne, you have any final comments?
Well, my final comment, but Jackie, do you want us to give the office number there? You want to post the?
Why don't we stick with the email, because right now I'm not in the office and I'm not going to be at least until September.
Okay. All right.
So there's some people in the office, but I'm not there directly all the time. So it's easier to just email me first. And that's probably the best way to do it. Or if you want to do the main office number, that's, I don't even know what it is, 203 777-2386.
Okay.
That's the main office number, and they'll be able to get you in touch with me.
All right, beautiful. Well, listen, at this time, only thing I would say is I want to thank you for taking action first, because that's the name of the broadcast. And W.J.R.G with our host with the most, Jerry Green, and he's getting ready to receive his humanitarian doctorate, you know, for all his years of services, and we commend him. I mean, he's definitely a humanitarian, and I thank God for these opportunities that God is raising up humanitarians in this time that hold fast, and because of the labor in their heart. Amen. So I just want to thank you for taking action first. So can you say that with me? Action first.
All right, Sister Jackie, God bless you. You have a blessed summer, right? And
thank you.
And be
thank
safe
you
out
too.
there.
God bless you for all that you do and all that you reach through your words and your music. Thank you.
All right, man. Both of you have a blessed evening and a blessed night. All right, Dr. Wayne.
All right, Doc.
All right.
All
Now
right.
back to some more